What's going on, Silverbacks? Adam and Phil here. We're starting our very first podcast. Today we're having our guest Brett Chrisman on. He was one of our first sponsored athletes. Guy's strong as fuck, and he's going to have a lot of great advice for us, I think.
Yeah, so he's coming out of Arizona, and hopefully we can catch him before he hits the gym. Hope you like it.
I don't know where to look, though.
What's up, guys?
Hey, what's going on, Brett?
Hey, man.
Not much, man. How are you?
Not too bad at all.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries, man. Sorry it took so long.
Oh, it's all good. I think everyone's busy with training and work and life and that kind of thing. So sometimes it takes a while to organize these things.
Yeah, no worries, man. Yeah, the holidays were eventful this year. I'm glad it's over with.
Yeah, for sure.
That's good,
So,
man.
how you been, Brett? How's training? How's everything going for you?
Training's going all right. I can't complain too much. Just like everybody else that does this sport, I've had a few injuries here or there that seem to not be healing up as quickly as usual. But other than that, man, the weight's still moving. I'm still getting stronger. It's just a matter of kind of stepping up my mobility game a little bit. I've been a little lazy lately, and at a certain point that falls on me, so I can't complain too much.
Mobility's never really fun, though. I don't really blame you. It's a struggle for me to try and set time aside to actually do it. I don't know. It's fun just lifting.
Exactly. It's time consuming, man. After training all day and training clients and stuff, sometimes the last thing I want to do is, spend my last 2 hours of the night foam rolling and
Yeah.
keep the stuff up. But
Yeah, especially when I remember a video with Mark Bell. He was talking about how he likes to make fun of people rolling around on the foam rollers on the floor of the gym for an hour before they start. So hearing that in the back of your head, you never want to be that guy, but sometimes, mobility is important, right? You gotta warm up those muscles and warm up those joints and everything and make sure everything's moving as it should be, right?
definitely, man. I feel like, everybody's a little different. Some people feel like they can kind of go into the gym and just get moving and get going quickly. For me, you can ask anybody I train with. I probably warm up for a good 30, 35 minutes no matter what I'm doing that day.
What's your warm-up consist of, typically?
Well, first of all, no matter what I'm doing that day, even if I'm not doing bench or anything, I always like to do some stuff for my right elbow. I had an elbow scope done about a year ago.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's just one of those things that I constantly, no matter what I'm doing, just put a little maintenance into it here or there. If I get a little lazy with it, it just tends to not extend or flex as well. So it's one of those injuries that you just got to stay on top of, put a little time into it every day, and it seems to kind of at least not get worse.
Yeah,
But,
definitely.
Besides that, a lot of foam rolling, a lot of P&F stretching. We have a guy that comes to our gym that I try to get in with like once a week just to get massages from, and he stretches me out. But besides that, just the basics, man. Just a little bit of static stretching, active stretching, and a lot of foam rolling.
Nice. And so, how big of a part do fruit cups then play into your pre-workout strategy?
I think, I don't know where it went, man. I had a fruit cup right next to me. But,
I love it. Yeah.
yeah, no, it's kind of like my go-to intra-workout little carbohydrate refuel right now. It's easy to put down. I usually just get a little Mandarin fruit cup, a scoop of aminos, and keeps me going for the second half of the
There
work.
you go. That's all
awesome.
you need. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great to hear. So how do you get started in powerlifting? What all kind of sparked this passion? Because you're obviously a passionate lifter. You're obviously very good at what you do. So how did you even get involved in it in the beginning?
I feel like it was just kind of one thing led to another, man. Just like anybody else, I was about 14, 15, and I just wanted to start working out. I just wanted to get a little bigger, wanted to get a little stronger. When I first started lifting, man, literally all I did, was like bicep curls and bench press. And at that point, I thought I wanted to be like a IFBB pro bodybuilder. If you asked me 10 years ago, I'd tell you I want to be 300 pounds and 6% body fat, and, be doing all that stuff. But it just, the more I got into it, the more I realized that, number one, that wasn't very possible for me. But number two, I I noticed that the stronger I got, the more I fell in love with it, really. So it just, I started off more of the aesthetic route, just wanted to get bigger, and just the stronger I got, the more passionate I got about just kind of focusing more on the strength aspect as opposed to the hypertrophy and bodybuilding stuff.
Did you have like a group of friends you worked out with at the time, or have you always kind of been by yourself, or?
I did actually. So in about 8th grade, I was supposed to go to some high school, and I ended up getting a boundary exception to go to a different one because I played hockey. And
cool.
The high school that I was going to didn't have hockey teams. So long story short, I wanted to go to the other high school so I could play hockey.
Right.
So all of my friends that I kind of had when I was younger went to this other high school. So, I kind of made some new friends at this other place that I was going to. And a lot of them played football and stuff. And I noticed that they were working out, and they were all, bigger and stronger than me. And I was like, hey, I kind of want to start working out and see what I can do as well. So, yeah.
And the rest is history.
Pretty much, man. Just one thing led to another. And 11 years later, man, I've been doing this pretty much consistently since I've been about 15, 16. Like I said, the focus has changed. There's been a couple of years where I focus more on strongman stuff, more on Olympic lifting stuff. So I've kind of tried a little bit of it all, and I think I just kind of settled with powerlifting because I feel like, number one, I love it, but number two, I feel like I probably have the most potential in powerlifting as opposed to strongman. I mean, I'm 5'9". You just can't get very far in strongman at 5'9". It's just,
Yeah, I mean, I guess a lot of strongman competitors are, over 6 feet easily, 6'3", 6'4" in most cases. So, I mean, but if you're looking at your powerlifting performance, you definitely stand out from the rest of them. I mean, what are your lifts right now? What are your best competition lifts that you've achieved as of today?
Best competition lifts are, and these are all in the 198-pound weight class, all raw sleeves. So the squat is 600 in competition. I've done 622 in the gym. For bench, I've benched 440 in competition and 445 in the gym. And then deadlift, I've done 733 in a meet, and then 727 in the gym.
Wow. That's insane.
Yeah.
Those are, I mean, those are some pretty big numbers. I mean, I think anyone can attest to that. Even anybody that has no experience with powerlifting could probably tell you that those are some pretty impressive numbers.
For sure. Yeah, well, I mean, you're, third right now in your weight class in the States?
I've moved down a couple. I think I'm like 5th or 6th now, so I need to get on the platform again soon and kind of climb back up there, which I have a competition in 4 weeks, so 4 weeks from today.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Yeah. We'll definitely be watching that. I mean, I know having done some competitions as well, it's always exciting, and especially when you have some big goals to hit, makes it even more exciting, that's for sure.
Definitely, man. Yeah, as I told you guys, I was planning on doing the LA Fit Expo, which is actually this weekend.
Yeah.
Fortunately, just had to drop out of that due to some timing issues and stuff, but luckily there was that competition that's here 4 weeks later, so the timing kind of worked out good.
What kind of stuff do you do to prepare for a competition? Like 4 weeks out from now, what kind of stuff are you going to be doing in the next couple of weeks to prepare?
Well, I mean, as far as my programming training goes, I mean, just like anybody else, kind of, these last few weeks, I'm just kind of testing, seeing where I'm at, deciding on my openers. Everybody does things a little differently. I like to at least get a somewhat gauge on kind of where I'm at. Some people stay a little more conservative in their last few weeks of training, but I like to go a little heavier, and just so I can be a little more accurate with where I'm at. But, I mean, aside from that, nutrition-wise, everything stays about the same. I got to do a little weight cut. I'm waking up at about 212, 213 right now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that last week before the comp, I'm going to have to drop the carbs and not drink water for about a day and a half. So that's always fun.
So do you find you're pretty comfortable around 210, or have you had to work really hard to get there?
I've always just been one of those people, man, that I'm just the true ectomorph body type. Like, it's always been so hard for me to gain weight. Like I said, I've been, lifting consistently since I was 15 or 16, and I don't even think I saw 200 pounds on the scale until I was about 22, 23.
Wow.
So it's just been one of those things like, yeah, man, when I first started working out, I was 125 pounds.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, obviously, I was 15 then.
True,
So,
yeah.
But still, I just, truthfully, man, if you saw me in person, especially if you saw, like, my calves and just my joints, you'd be like, oh, this dude's, like, built to run.
Team no calves?
Yeah, oh, yeah. I'm part of that team, for sure.
That's funny. Do you have a favorite lift of the three?
Deadlift.
Yeah.
Definitely, hands down. Honestly, I've kind of had to learn to love the squat. It's just never been nice to me. It's I don't know. I hate to make excuses, and say, oh, I'm just not built for it. But it's always just been my most stubborn lift. So at a certain point, I'm almost the most proud of where my squat's at, just because it's been such a pain in the ass to get it to where it's at. But I mean, at the end of the day, nothing replaces deadlift for me. I don't know what it is. Just
such an alpha
pulling it off the
exercise.
ground.
Yeah. Do you have any tips or cues that have really helped you kind of improve your deadlift over the years? And
I would say number one, probably the most important thing for deadlifting is just your starting position and learning how to get tight and learning how to stay tight through that
Right.
pull. I've had a lot of people that have kind of tried to, a lot of people that I train in person and stuff that have kind of tried to emulate my technique a little bit or something. As you guys have seen, I go pretty quick and it's pretty explosive. And it's just one of those things where, when I first started doing it, I was very inconsistent with it. And
Right.
it's just taken years of just doing that same setup and the exact same thing to get it consistently to where it's at. So I'd say more than anything else for deadlifting or any other exercise, it's just being consistent. I know too many people that, mess with too many things, kind of like that quote, don't fix if it ain't broken.
Right, yeah.
A lot of people be like, if they're having bench problems, if they're plateaued or something, they'll be like, I'm going to move my grip out a little bit, I'm going to try to move it in a little bit. And I find that just being consistent and just sticking with the same thing week in, week out is hands down the most important part of just making progress overall.
That makes sense. And then for your training with deadlifts, do you stay in the 70 to 80% range, kind of your 1 rep max most of the time, or do you have a strategy for that?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, I'll usually stay around under 85% or so until, I'm getting closer to a competition about 8 weeks out or so. For me, I kind of program my deadlifts a little different than I program my squats and my bench. And what I mean by that is, for instance, for squatting and bench, I pretty much just base off of just volume. And
Right.
I've just found that that's what it responds to. Whereas my deadlift, it doesn't seem to respond to volume as well as it does of just a little higher intensity lifting. So you'll notice for my deadlifts, I'll just kind of focus on hitting little rep PRs, whether it's a 1 rep, a 2 rep, a 3 rep, all the way up to 5 or 6. And I kind of just cycle up and down that rep range.
Right.
And I mean, it's pretty basic, but it's just what's worked for me up to this point. So once again, I just see no point to really mess with it when I'm still making the progress I am. But yeah, I've just found over time that the more volume I do for deadlift, I mean, number one, it's so much harder to recover for squats and bench. So just kind of having that top set and doing back down accessory work pretty light seems to be working for me.
Cool. Have you always done your own programming, or have you had a coach before or followed other programs? Or
I mean, I've followed other programs. I've done, just basic kind of 5-3-1 or the Texas program, or
Yeah.
I've done a few rounds of just the Smolop Junior for squat and bench. Besides that, I do all my own programming. I just enjoy doing it. I feel like I can stay pretty honest with myself and kind of stick to the plan. That's the big thing for a lot of people that do their own programming, is they tend to second guess themselves a lot. And that's one thing that I feel like I'm pretty good at, is just sticking to the plan. So as of now, yeah, I've pretty much done all my own programming up to this point.
So you mentioned, making progress in your deadlifts and figure out what works for you, but what do you do when things aren't working? What do you do when you hit those plateaus and you need, a little extra help or a little extra, volume, or what's your strategy for smashing through those plateaus?
I mean, usually if something like that's happened in my training where I'm plateaued, I mean, usually I'm either not recovering well enough or it's just time to switch something up. So, I mean, there's times where in my programming that I won't deadlift for like 3 or 4 weeks straight, and I'll usually just up my squat frequency. And so I found that usually, like, if my deadlift's not moving, I just need to kind of take a little break from it for a few weeks and go back to it. But yeah, I mean, as far as like squatting goes, it's just it responds to nothing but volume. It's terrible. I hate volume work, but it's necessary to get my squat stronger. So I put myself through it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that can kind of relate to that. I mean, if there's at least one lift or maybe even 2 lifts, that sometimes, you know, it's not a matter of even technique, but just, you know, getting that time under tension, getting that volume in, and making sure that you're doing that work. And sometimes it's not fun, but, you know, sometimes that's what it takes to improve at it.
Definitely, yeah. You know, I've definitely found that, you know, the stronger I get, the more specific you need to be to your sport or what you're trying to get to. Like I said, you know, I used to kind of do more strongman stuff, more Olympic lifting stuff, but I definitely got to a point where it was like, okay, if I want to get better at deadlift, squatting, and benching, I need to focus on that and kind of drop all the other stuff that isn't specifically helping me towards that as much.
How many like days a week do you train, and like kind of for how long?
Right now I'm training 4 days a week. Usually once I get to about 8-12 weeks out from a comp, I drop it to 4 times a week. Normally I lift 5 times a week.
Right.
And usually that extra day is just kind of an accessory day to maybe do some extra, you know, just like isolation work. Whatever I couldn't fit in those other 4 days, I usually just end up doing a lot of back work, core-specific work, extra mobility. Yeah, definitely as, you know, I get closer to the competition and the squats are getting heavier and the deadlifts are getting heavier, I have to drop that next day just for better recovery.
Yeah, that makes sense. We noticed Mike Rashid was training at your gym the one day. What's that like, training around? Like, do you have a lot of kind of, I guess, celebrities coming through, or like more famous people in the community coming through that gym?
I mean, we've definitely had a few. I mean, we had Dan Green out there, probably a couple years ago or so, just to do like a seminar. We've had like Ben Seath out there. Yeah, Mike Rashid. He lives here local.
Okay.
So yeah, he probably stops by the gym once or twice a week usually. I think he's been pretty busy the last few weeks, but yeah, he's got a membership there, and it's awesome, man, to get to meet these people and train around them. I mean, I definitely would not be where I'm at strength-wise without the gym that I'm at and just that environment of being around people like that just keep you motivated. And
yeah,
makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I think that's what I've heard a lot of people say about the environment that you're lifting in. It can make a big difference. I mean, Adam and I are kind of stuck right now working out at a university gym, which, you know, it's all right. The equipment's there. There's more. The facility is more than acceptable. But when it comes to having that environment, then yeah, I find it would make a big difference, or does make a big difference when you're lifting with people that are just as passionate as you are.
Yeah.
Definitely, man. And I mean, you know, there's nothing wrong with a commercial gym. You know, I mean, I lifted there for 90% of the time that I've been lifting. It's just better. It's hard to explain. It's just more motivating. You know, I don't know, people coming up to me and telling me I can't deadlift or I can't drop the bar and all of that crap you deal with.
Yeah, no one needs that in the middle of their session.
Yeah, definitely not. What's
Revolution Gym like? Is it a pretty powerlifting focused gym then?
I mean, we got a little bit of everything for the most part. We got a lot of powerlifters there, but I mean, there's some people that do kind of more physique bodybuilding stuff.
Right.
A couple people that do more strongman stuff. So yeah, I mean, we got people all across the board. I mean, we got people coming in there that are just, you know, just trying to get into a little better shape, not doing anything crazy, and then we got the people, you know, that are very, very serious and very committed. And another good thing is, you know, I train with a group of about 5 or 6 other people, and we all just are like-minded as far as powerlifting goes, and just our work ethic, and it just makes the biggest difference.
That makes a lot of sense. Are you working full time, or are you training people for the most part, or what do you spend most of your time doing?
For work, yeah, I pretty much personal training. So I actually train people out of Revolution.
Okay.
So I have some clients there, and then I recently started doing like the online programming stuff just to help a little bit with some side cash. But so yeah, I mean, technically I don't work full time just because I haven't built up my clientele enough to get to that point. But I mean, that is the goal, is to just slowly build up my clientele. I mean, I've been personal trainer for about 5 years now. Started in a commercial gym, worked there for a couple of years, and luckily got the opportunity to work at this gym that I'm at now. So,
no, it's nice. It gives you, I think, some more flexibility as far as your training goes. Allows you to focus more on your training. And I know a 9-to-5 job, it can be tough to find time to train and dedicate, because being like top 5 or 6, it's like that's not easy. It takes a lot of time and effort to do that, right? So.
Oh, definitely, man. And you know, that's one thing that I will say is that, you know, I've been very lucky to have a pretty accommodating schedule for this type of training. And, you know, I feel like at a certain point that makes a big difference. You know, I know people, and especially like a few of my training partners, I got actually my roommate, he's a nurse, you know, so he works like 12-hour shifts. And, you know, it's just, you know, seeing what he goes through schedule-wise compared to me, it's like, I can definitely see where, you know, working kind of a normal 9-to-5 career job like that would be so much more difficult. So I definitely am very lucky to have the schedule that I do.
What kind of do you do any sort of type of diets or nutrition, anything specifically? Like, I know I got into powerlifting, so I was allowed to basically eat whatever I want now, which is one of the benefits for me. Like a bunch of fruit cups if I wanted. But I don't know, like, do you have a specific regimen that you follow as far as what you eat and stuff?
I mean, I definitely eat about the same consistent foods every day. I don't do anything crazy, man. Just as long as I, you know, stay around the, you know, 208 to 212, 214, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I do count my macros. I normally eat about 90 grams of fat a day, about 400 grams of carbs, and about 200 grams of protein, just as an average. I mean, I'm not too strict about that. You know, like you said, I kind of enjoy the eating whatever I want part as well. So, I mean, you know, if I have days where, you know, I feel like going over all my fat, you know, by 20, 30 grams, I don't stress about it too much.
Yeah, exactly. Any supplements or anything that you're using? Like protein powder maybe, but...
Pretty much all the basic stuff. You know, protein powder, pretty much just like a whey isolate, multivitamin, fish oil, pre-workout, and then just like intra-aminos.
Yeah.
But pretty basic with that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. What kind of music do you listen to at the gym? If you do listen to it while you train, what's your go-to?
You know, I kind of enjoy almost every genre of music as far as lifting goes. It just depends what I'm in the mood for. I mean, there's times where, you know, I feel like it's something a little heavier, play some heavy metal or something, but I mean, there's times where I'm in there, I'll be listening to, you know, reggae or something that's a little more relaxing. It just depends. Depends what I'm doing that day. Depends what kind of mood I'm in.
Yeah.
I would say my go-to overall is more of just like hip-hop and rap and just kind of more upbeat stuff.
Yeah, right on.
Do you have, what is your kind of like future goals next maybe 1 to 5 years as far as powerlifting goes?
I'd like to stay in the 198 weight class for at least another year or two. I feel like even now, you know, I'm not making that big of a cut. It's still pretty easy for me to make 198.
Right.
But eventually, you know, I do want to go up to 220. You know, I'd like to just see, at a certain point, I just want to get bigger and stronger. You know, I'd like to see where I can get to at 198. I definitely think that I can still add a decent amount to my total, but it's just one of those things where, you know, it's probably going to start slowing down eventually, and that's when I'll make the move to 220. I would love to get to like a 500 bench at 198. You know, I feel like I'm probably in the 460, 465-ish range right now. So I feel like it's possible, but who knows? You know, I could just get to that 480, 485-ish mark and just hit a wall. I feel like, you know, there's not many people that bench 500 at 198 that also have a good deadlift. So... but, I mean, as far as deadlift goes, too, you know, I mean, my lifetime goal, I mean, 800. I'd love to hit 800 at 198, but as you guys know, one person has done that, Jesse Norris.
Yeah,
and,
true.
I'll give it everything I can, but we'll see how it goes.
What about, like, do you do a lot of deload weeks and that type of thing? Do you schedule that in for yourself?
I do, especially when I'm prepping for a meet. Once again, if I don't have a meet coming up, I normally can kind of self-regulate my program enough to the point where I don't have to deload very often. But when I'm doing this peaking phase, when I'm hitting heavy doubles, kind of like my deadlift yesterday, you definitely need to deload a little more frequently. So I would say right now I'm deloaded about every 4th week.
Yeah.
But with that being said, too, I do my own programming, so I kind of am able to be a little more flexible with that. So if I feel like I can push it for another week, I'll push it for another week. If I'm feeling crappy, I'll take my deload week early. So it's just one of those things where I just listen to my body, and if I need the deload, I'll take it. If not,
sure.
I try to just keep pushing along.
Oh, how do you recover? What are your favorite methods for helping your recovery along so you can keep on pushing that weight?
Nutrition overall, plays a huge role. I've always been one of those people that I kind of recently have been lowering my protein intake and upping my carbs, because I've always been one of those people that's just no, I need 250 grams of protein plus. And, the science as far as powerlifting goes, it kind of shows you really don't need that much protein. So
right.
Lately, I've kind of finally gave in, and I've kind of lowered my protein. Even about a year ago, I was probably eating 250 to 300 grams of protein a day, and I'm down to about 200 a day on average right now. But I literally feel no difference. I feel better, and just by lowering my protein, I'm able to up my carbs and fat a little bit, and I feel like that's definitely made a pretty big difference in my recovery, just getting an extra 50 to 100 grams of carbs a day. But besides that, just the basic, every night I usually put at least a half hour to 45 minutes in of just foam rolling, stretching, moving around. Besides that, I don't really do anything out of the ordinary. I don't really take any salt baths or anything like that, but pretty basic.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was watching a video with Omar and Greg Knuckles, and they had 2 guys on who just basically squatted every day for a month, and they put on almost 50 pounds on their squat totals. Have you done anything like that over the last 11 years that's really helped you kind of increase your squat, bench, or deadlift?
Well, definitely. I was stuck at about a 500-pound 500-pound squat for a long time.
Yeah.
And pretty much how I got past that plateau was just squatting 2 to 3 times a week. Just when I squat once a week, it just doesn't make the gains that it makes when I squat 2-3 times a week. So I found that more than anything, just frequency and volume is the most important thing for squat. Like I said, I've done Smolok Jr. a few times. And with that, you'll squat 4 times a week for a 3-week period. But I have found that that's about all I can take as far as my knees go. After a few weeks of just that high frequency squatting, my knees are they're done. They need some time off. So I found that for me, twice a week max for squatting as far as frequency goes. But yeah, I think that's, something that everybody should consider. Is it's not always just about, adding more weight or volume overall. Just sometimes adjusting your frequency make a bigger difference than adjusting anything else.
That makes sense. I was watching a Mark Bell podcast, and they talked about on kind of when you're in the off season or not training for a competition, they'll get rid of the belts and the knee sleeves and all that stuff. Do you go, I noticed you were pulling with deadlifts. I think it was 650, ribless, beltless, all that stuff, doing sumo last week, I think it was. Do you go through cycles where you don't use knee sleeves and belts and stuff?
I do. Pretty much after my meets, and I kind of restart my training cycle, and I'm going a little lighter, probably starting in, 65, 70% range. I definitely will go minimal equipment use at that point. I enjoy doing a lot of beltless training. I've had a lot of back problems, and at a certain point, I just feel like if I can get my beltless stuff super strong, it's probably going to be good for me in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've always just focused on, doing a lot of beltless stuff. I think just kind of all the strongman stuff that I did, all the farmer's walks and the stones and all that, it's just really kind of conditioned me to be able to work with a pretty heavy workload beltless. Like I feel like all of my beltless squats and deadlifts are pretty comparatively close to with the belt, and I attribute that literally to just training without the belt.
Yeah, that makes sense.
How do you incorporate any kind of speed training into your workouts? Because I know you have you call them lightning deadlifts, and I mean it is definitely some good speed work. So how do you find that fits into your training methodology?
Well, first of all, I got to give credit to Josh Bryant for the lightning deads. Don't want him to get pissed at me, but yeah. So the lightning deads, it's actually something new that I'm trying these out for this training cycle. I've always loved doing speed training, and I definitely feel like all of the speed and dynamic training that I've done is a big part of the reason that I am explosive like I am. So I've just always put a big emphasis on speed. But like I did more of kind of a West Side barbell routine for years, where I would just have like a dynamic and a max effort lower day and a dynamic and a max effort upper day. And some people feel like those routines aren't great for raw lifters, but I felt like I made just as good progress doing that type of training than anything else that I've tried. So I definitely am a big believer in just training for velocity and just trying to always move things as fast as you can.
Yeah.
But I mean, ways that I incorporate, kind of speed work into my program is, number one, when I do take my deload weeks, I'll usually do speed work that week. It's probably not at like the same percentage that you would do it at for your routine, but that's just one way that I can get some kind of more engaging stuff in on my deload week, is just focusing on speed with super light weights. But pretty much I have like my main lift for bench squat or deadlifts. Say I go in there and I deadlift, I'll have like my main workout, which is just whatever my top set is. And then usually whatever accessory I have after is focused on speed. So I guess to put it simply, I've always put a big emphasis on speed training, and I feel like it's been really effective for me.
Cool. For people who are watching, maybe don't know you so well, I know you mentioned like online coaching. What does that kind of consist of when you're working with someone?
So as far as the online coaching goes, obviously a lot of them don't live near me. That's why we're doing the online stuff. So pretty much, if they get in contact with me and they want to do programming, we'll just kind of communicate back and forth for a week, talking about goals and experience and what they're trying to do. And pretty simple. I'll just set them up with an 8, 12, 16-week training template. I take it week to week. I don't know why I use the word template, because I literally don't use a template. I do it all week to week based off how it's looking. It's more of like an RPE based program.
Yeah.
But I found that it's definitely been effective for everybody that's tried it. And I feel like the fact that I've always done my own programming, and I just feel like I have pretty good skills to help other people, because I've always just done my own programming, and I've kind of tried what works and what doesn't. So
yeah, and doing this for such a long period of time like you have, and then being in a gym with other strong people, I'm sure you've seen like a large spectrum of what works and what doesn't, and have a good perspective for new people, especially coming to the sport.
Definitely, man. And with that being said, people respond to different things. There's people that, like I said, my deadlift doesn't really respond to volume. There's people that are the exact opposite. It's like they purely have to base it off of volume. So yeah, that's definitely very important, is just finding what works for the client. So, everybody's different, and people respond to different things. So definitely got to experiment around a little bit and see what works best for people.
For sure.
In terms of, what was I going to say here? Lost my train of thought here. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah. What would you consider some of your maybe top 3 your favorite tips or tricks for the squat, bench, and deadlift? Like, could you just walk us through maybe even the 3 biggest things that you've done to either improve your technique or improve the way that you lift that weight?
Yeah, definitely. All right, so I'll start with squat. I squatted high bar for my first 5 or 6 years of squatting, never even tried low bar. And, I mean, not this is some, huge breakthrough that I had, but, literally just switching to low bar for me has made a world of difference. Like I said, my squat was stuck at 500 pounds high bar for a long time, and I just really couldn't get it to move. So the biggest thing for me was just finally committing to doing low bar. And, it sucked for a while because I went to low bar and it was like, 405 was like horrible. I had no stopping power. Like kind of when you do like a high bar, Olympic style squat, you don't stop at parallel. So kind of that deacceleration was killing me for a while. But I mean, as far as squat goes, the best thing I ever did was just go low bar and just find my own technique. I feel like a lot of people, they look at certain lifters or they read the textbooks and it tells them you have to squat this way or you have to bench this way, and everybody's different. Everybody joints and bones and everybody's built differently, and I just feel like at a certain point you got to kind of find what works best for you. And is everybody always going to agree with it? No, but at a certain point you just got to find what works better for you, because it's not always set in stone.
That makes sense.
I mean, another thing I would say the most important thing for squat for me that I focus on more than anything else is just tightness, just getting tight, taking my breath before the squat. I remember watching a video that Chris Duffin had on just like abdominal bracing for squatting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, up until that point, I was pretty much bracing the wrong way. So I, watched his video and took some tips from it and tried it out the next day. And it was like instantly just bracing the way that he said probably improved my squat by 20 to 30 pounds overnight just from bracing differently.
Yeah, I think I watched that exact video myself. Actually, we'll probably post it in the description or something, because it is a great video and it really changed the way I squat for sure. The same as you.
Yeah. I mean, as far as bench goes, I would say the biggest cue for me and the biggest thing I work on is just like lat tightness and leg drive. When I first started benching and stuff, you really think about, just like using your arms and your chest to really push the weight. I feel like for me now, it's an entirely different movement than it used to be. Like I literally think about pulling the bar almost more than I think about pushing the bar. And what I mean by that is, just kind of sitting up on bench when you're going into that, eccentric range of motion, just literally engaging those lats and getting everything super tight. And actually, Eric Spoto has a really good video about that too. Yep. That's another video that I watched that was just like kind of night and day difference of just getting tight and using that leg drive. And I mean, that right there has probably added a good 20 pounds to my bench just from having a little different mindset, I guess, of what to focus on while benching.
Right.
As far as deadlift goes, I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. It's like, that was a huge cue for me, but I just always go back to just the starting position and just being consistent with it and not switching things up. Like, the way that I approach the bar when I deadlift 700 pounds is the same way that I approach the bar with no weight on it. And so it's just one of those things where you just do the same thing over and over and over again. And just eventually, your movement patterns, your CNS and everything, it just kind of comes together. And that's one thing that I will say is, the more that I do these movements, the more almost robotic you feel and the more efficient you get at the movement. And it feels entirely different 10 years into lifting than it did when I first started lifting.
That makes sense, yeah. That's great. I think that's all our questions for you today, man. I appreciate the time. Where can people find you? Obviously, your Instagram's at Brett Chrisman. Are you on anything else?
I actually just got a Facebook
website?
going. It's the same thing, just Brett Chrisman. Yeah, man, I pretty much, I've been dark as far as the social media goes up until my Instagram, so I'm definitely trying to get my name out there, and I thank you guys for helping me with that as well. So,
hey, well, we're happy to help you out anyway. I mean, you're definitely deserving of it because you're a hell of a strong lifter and you put in the work. So any way that we can help, and I mean, any way that you can help other people get your name out there and just let people know that what you're doing. I mean, we're always happy to help any way we can.
For sure, man. Send us. Are they live streaming your meet? Do you know?
I'm not sure if they're live streaming mine. If they are, I'll send you guys the link.
Cool. Okay, yeah, it'd be great to watch that. So, anyways,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, enjoy the rest of your weekend, man, and appreciate the time.
All right, man. Going to bench right now. So I'll post some videos here soon.
Can't
Sounds
wait, man.
good.
See you, brother.
All right, man. Have a good weekend.
Thanks.
You too.
All right, that's all we have for you today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. Hope all Brett's information was helpful. I think our next podcast will have our other sponsored athlete, Jason, on, who's also a strong guy, and hopefully he'll be able to provide more advice for you. If you have any questions that you want answered that maybe weren't answered on here today, but we can talk about next time, for sure let us know.
Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. We had this live on Periscope, so follow us there at Silverback Power. We're going to post some of Brett's links as well. So if you want to reach out to Brett, see what he can do for you, we'll link you up there. So stay tuned for the next podcast.
Yeah, peace.